What's your guy doing? You ready for trial?
Yeah.
Okay, get over there. Come on, let's go.
Mr. Burns, you want to come on up? Please execute his jury trial waiver. There's a waiver of jury trial right on the second from the bottom. Yeah. Just have a seat over there next to your attorney, sir.
He didn't even apologize. I know, that's what I thought too. Yeah, to me, the attorney looks like he's hot right now. So what business? They asked you all to have him move?
They said they had told him to move outside the festival area. He refused. They broadcasted it over our radios. Said if we located him, ask him to leave the festival area. And then outside the ride area where Jody and I were at, we found him. Somebody with main straws came up to us.
They were getting complaints about him or something.
So we had asked him numerous times just to take it outside the festival area. And that's when he started yelling and chanting something about marijuana.
Yeah.
Legalizing it. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I told him because of
And when they do main straws, that's a private.
I think it's a fenced-in festival.
Well, festival area
The only
private.
thing, they have to buy tickets for the rides and pay an entrance fee into the bars.
And the people that put out their places of business have to pay, don't they, to set up and stuff?
I don't think they were charging to get into the festival area, just
Right.
the bars and the rides.
But if he wanted to set up and be a merchant or to do, you have to pay. Might check with Mr. Otis and tell him we're going to start a trial, so if he wants to get in here and get a plea, better.
Is there any offers for Mr. Burns?
Your Honor, I don't even recall what the offer was at this point. I think it was a $100 fine.
Your Honor, as I recall, it was a $100 fine plus exclusion of main straw for a period of 2 years.
Okay.
The exclusion for a period of 2 years was what's holding us up at this point.
If he wants to do the $100 fine, it's just that he needs to understand during these festivals, if he wants to set up as an actual merchant, because my understanding is he's a freedom to legalize marijuana, he has to pay the people during those festivals to have a space. That's what the objection was. He was bothering people that were down there, and they kept complaining to Main Straws Association, who runs the Oktoberfest. And then that's...
If you want to set up a booth, you're going to have to pay their booth prices. You understand that?
not during...
We have no problem if he, during private festivals, for him to set up his own booth to pay your honor.
That was the issue.
Other times, obviously, he wouldn't have to do that.
Right, well,
Up the
right.
street. However, we understand that during a private festival, that sort of thing, he would have to do so.
Just like everybody else, treating you any different. You want to accept their $100 fine, or what do you want to do?
Who are these idiots?
Judge, we'll proceed with trial.
Just so you understand, sir, that you're looking up at 90 days in jail, $250 in fines. And if I can impose those conditions, if convicted. You understand that? So the whole range of gamut's back on the table once you go to trial.
Right.
Which could include exclusion from Main Strauss, which I normally do when people get in trouble then. So you need to, I want to make sure you're making an informed decision.
Yeah, I understand.
All right. Sign your jury waiver. Hey, Mr. Burns, you understand you're entitled to a jury trial under the Constitution?
Yes, sir.
Has anyone promised you anything or threatened you with anything to get you to waive your jury trial?
No.
You're doing that voluntarily and of your own free will?
Yes, sir.
And sir, do you understand and that I will be the trier of fact and of the law? You understand that?
Yes, sir.
I'll accept the waiver of jury trial. Testify, raise your hand. Someone swear affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Are you first witness?
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Detective Derek Ewell, the Covington Police Department.
On September 9th, 2011, were you working a special detail at the Main Strauss Festival known as, I guess that would be Oktoberfest?
I was.
And as part of that detail, could you explain how Main Strauss is set up during that Oktoberfest weekend?
The way the festival was set up, the ride area was in the Fifth Street Center lot, located at 525 West Fifth Street, where I was assigned, along with Detective Rigney. And food and other merchant booths are set up on 6th Street, east and west of Main Street, and on Main Street itself in the 5 and 600 block. So therefore, traffic is restricted between 5th Street, 7th Street on Main, and Philadelphia and Kentucky Avenue, I believe, on 6th Street. So the merchants and patrons can walk freely among the street to take part in the bars, other tents, and music, and other booths that are set up for people to buy certain items. During the course of my duties, I was assigned to the ride area, and a broadcast went over our police channel attempting to locate an individual that was passing out flyers and causing a disturbance to other merchants.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
It's not for the truth, it's just why he responds out loud.
So therefore, myself and Detective Rigney were amongst our duties in the ride area of foot patrol of the area, came across Mr. Burns in the breezeway between the 5th Street Center lot and Pachinko's bar. We advised Mr. Burns that the Main Strauss Association had asked him to leave outside the festival area where he could freely speak and preach his cause, where he willingly was allowed. And we also were flagged down by a Main Strauss Association employee who, just prior to our contact with Mr. Burns, had asked him to leave as well, and Mr. Burns refused. Myself and Detective Rigney asked Mr. Burns to leave numerous times. Mr. Burns refused and began to yell and chant various marijuana and legalizing marijuana statements, causing annoyance and alarm to other patrons and merchants in the area.
Did a crowd form around where the disturbance was going on?
It did.
Did you have to remove him by force out of the blocked-out Main Strauss Association area?
Yes, Mr. Burns was placed into custody and removed from the festival area.
And did this occur in Kenton County, Kentucky?
It did.
Do you see Mr. Burns in the courtroom today, and could you point him out for us?
Seated to my right in a brown shirt next to in between his counsel.
May the record reflect he's identified the defendant. When he was asked to leave numerous times, could you explain what it is you told him, where he could go, hand out his flyers, and where he could not?
Outside the festival area, which being at 5th Street, at Main, Bakewell, or on 7th Street on Main, or anywhere outside the festival area.
And does the Main Street Association yearly pay the city to put on these festivals during certain times during the year here in Kenton County?
It is. That's my understanding.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions for Detective Ewell.
You may ask.
Thank you, Honor. Detective Ewell, correct?
Yes, sir.
You have said that you conducted this along with Detective Rigby, is that
Yes.
correct? When you had to first approach Mr. Burns, what exactly was he doing at the time?
He was chanting something about marijuana and legalizing it. He was there on behalf of somebody that was running for governor for the state of Kentucky. He actually walked through 2 other police officers that were attempting to stop him as well. And myself and Detective Rigney were the ones that actually were able to stop and gain his attention.
Now, I believe you said that the Main Strauss Association had called you, correct?
Well, they had advised whoever was running our Police Channel 3 for the special event, advised that person to broadcast it over our police channel to advise him to leave the festival area and that he could set up outside the festival area. And before we had made contact with Mr. Burns, we spoke with a female who was with the association, and she stated us the same thing.
Was anybody in the had anybody in the crowd complained that you know of?
Not to me.
Do you recall exactly what type of sign he was holding up?
I do not recall. No.
Would you recognize it if you were able to see it?
I may have. I wasn't particularly paying attention to his signage or pamphlets. I was just merely trying to have him. I'm assuming what he's holding up is what he had. I don't know. I was just merely trying to give him other places to set up his venue or his soapbox, if you will, of his whatever he was wanting to talk about.
Now, do you have to pay an entry fee to get into Oktoberfest?
To certain areas, to the rides area, and also to the individual bars. But I don't believe this festival was a cover charge to enter the festival.
Now, you mentioned that booths have been set up also to sell products, that sort of thing. Were there any other types of booths at Oktoberfest?
Any other type of what?
Booths.
My assigned area was in the ride area, so I can only attest to what was in the rides and where we were at with Mr. Burns. There were food booths, what I noticed, and other booths where they were selling, T-shirts and jewelry and other things.
Was Mr. Burns at any time, in your opinion, causing a public inconvenience?
Yes.
Before you approached him?
Yes.
How many officers actually approached him?
He walked by 2 that were trying to initially stop him, and then myself and Detective Rigney, so 4 police officers.
Now, the Main Trust Association, do you normally handle security for them?
It is an off-duty detail for Covington Police Department and Kenton County Sheriff's deputies. It is ran by the security detail itself is ran by a Kenton County Sheriff's deputy.
Were you in uniform at the time?
I was.
But you said it was off-duty?
Yes, it wasn't part of my normal work duties. It was an off-duty security detail.
Do you ever do any other type of off-duty security details?
Oh, most definitely. Kroger's.
And I'm going to object. I don't see any relevance to what Detective Yule chooses to do off duty or not.
Your Honor, this is bearing on whether he's being a state actor or not. State actor at the time of arrest and approach.
What's the relevancy to that?
I'm sorry, Judge?
What's the relevancy of that?
Well, we're looking at if the public, if it was a public place, number one, that the public had access to for First Amendment purposes, and number two, if he was having his speech suppressed by a state actor. Whether he was having his speech suppressed by a state actor.
This isn't about the content of his speech. It was that's the same objection, like where he works at Kroger's or not. As it relates to your off-duty services, are you paid directly or paid through the Covington Police Department?
I'm paid through the Humane Strauss Association.
They pay you directly or through the Covington Police Department?
Directly.
Thank you. Did you happen to see any other individuals either holding out signs or passing out pamphlets?
I did not.
And you said that your area was around the Rise area.
Which was at the Fifth Street center lot.
Now, how far is that in proximity to where Mr. Burns was?
The Fifth Street center lot is a parking lot that is located behind Pachinko's and runs parallel with 6th Street. And then the breezeway in between that connects the two was where Mr. Burns was located.
The breezeway?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is that a public thoroughfare? I'm sorry, not a thoroughfare. Is that a public way? Can the public pass through?
Yes.
Were members of the public only passing through it that day to attend Oktoberfest?
I didn't ask. Every member that was walking through, it was within the festival area, so I'm assuming that they were there to take part in the festival itself.
Now, do all the bars, businesses also partake in Oktoberfest, or can they operate independently regardless of whether the festival is going on?
That I would know. You'd have to ask somebody with the Main Strauss Association.
Do you recall who exactly called you from the Main Strauss Association?
Whoever was dispatching on our channel, Police Channel 3, which is the special event channel at the time.
One second. Now, did Mr. Burns have a booth of any sort?
Not that I was aware of.
Did he have a soapbox he was standing on?
Not that I was aware of.
Was he doing anything other than speaking?
I believe so. That's all he was doing.
That was all he was doing.
He had disregarded our numerous requests for him to leave the area, along with the Main Strauss Association.
Prior to that, whenever you first approached him, was that all he was doing, was speaking to the crowd?
Speaking, chanting, yelling, however you want to put it.
What was he chanting, in fact?
Something to the effect of legalizing marijuana.
Was he also handing out political pamphlets at the time?
When my dealings with him, he was not handing out anything at the time, but he had pamphlets in his hand.
He did have pamphlets in his hand?
Mm-hmm.
Would you recognize that if you saw that?
No, I wasn't paying attention to what the pamphlets contained, what they looked like.
Now, Detective, was he actually arrested for just his speech or refusing to leave?
He was arrested for refusing to leave and for yelling and chanting and causing annoyance and alarm to other patrons.
And that was prior to him being approached, correct?
Yes, and during our contact with him.
Can the other guy just answer me?
Yeah, I don't know. Tag team.
Now, was he actually was he annoying people? Was it his voice, the way he was carrying, or the content of what he was saying?
That I couldn't tell you, other than a crowd was beginning to form around us.
Now, in all, how many people exactly complained about him?
I don't know.
So you received 2 different calls?
One that was broadcasted over our police channel, and then one from a Main Strauss Association employee.
Now, around that area, are there residential houses?
Yeah, on the south side of 6th Street there is.
Had anybody called from there?
I didn't field any calls. I wasn't working in our dispatch center.
But you didn't receive any from the
I
dispatch
didn't,
center?
no.
Now, was there any music going on at the festival that could be heard whenever you approached Mr. Burns?
There was music from the bars, and I think they had live bands throughout the festival area.
How far in proximity was that venue?
The what?
The music, respectively, how far was the music coming from the bars or from live bands, whatever?
Well, he was approximately 10 to 15 feet away from the Pachinko's bar, and where the stage was located.
How loud was that music?
I don't know what decibel level.
Well, let me ask this a different way. Could you hear him over the music?
Can I hear Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Yes.
What type of music was coming from?
I have no idea.
And I'm going to ask, if this is another attorney, could he enter his appearance, or it seems like it'd be easier if he just asked the questions? And it's not tag team.
Now, were any members of...
You have a problem with that? Or?
No, Your Honor.
Well, he seems...
Well, I wasn't saying anything out loud, Judge, so it just seems to me he has a right to consult with me.
He has a right to consult with you, but you don't have the right to ask questions. He's the cross-examiner, and it's only one person who asks questions. You're fine, you can talk with whoever he wants. Go ahead.
Now, was anybody from Pachinko's asked to lower the meeting?
I don't know.
But you personally did not, or you didn't personally observe any officer do so?
I did not know.
So did anybody in Mr. Burns' immediate area complain about what he was saying?
Not to me.
Thank you all. Nothing further.
Very briefly on redirect. To your knowledge, could Mr. Burns have set up a booth with the Main Strauss Association in a separate area from where you were, where all the other vendors were located?
That's correct. Excuse me.
Could Mr. Burns have also gone to any myriad of locations outside of the festival area?
Yes, I believe Detective Rigney and I gave him alternate locations to go.
And are all the entry points to the festivals, would it be fair to say that they're very crowded and get a lot of foot traffic as well?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Detective, is it disorderly conduct to not set up a booth?
I'm sorry?
Is it disorderly conduct to not set up a booth?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. You're the finder of fact. It's not for Detective Ewell to determine what is and what is not disorderly
I
conduct.
apologize, Your Honor, if I may refrain. Thank you. Would you, on any given day during a similar festival, charge somebody with disorderly conduct for not having a booth, passing out political pamphlets?
I have not in the past. That's what your question is.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further to this witness.
I have a couple of questions. Just on these festivals, the Main Strauss Association, whoever puts those on, do they receive a permit from the city for those festivals?
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
And and for your knowledge, that they sell spots, I suppose, for booths for food or beer, or
Yes, that they do.
political candidates, whatever.
Yes.
And those are sold by the festival holder, not the city. Is that correct?
I believe it's through the Main Strauss Association. Yes, you're correct, sir.
So for lack of a better term, they sort of rent that area for the festival and pay the city?
They do.
And once you approached Mr. Burns to ask him to leave at the request of the association, was it the content of his speech, or was it his demeanor and et cetera was causing alarm?
It was his demeanor and his level of his voice that caused us to act and make the arrest.
Anyone else? Any questions? Follow-up questions?
No, sir.
One follow-up question, Your Honor. If he would have left the area that you had wanted him to, would the CPD, Covington Police Department, or anybody else have pursued him out there for arrest?
Well, if he would have stayed on a street corner and just continued to do what he was proclaiming he wanted to do, then no, we would not have.
Like you said, if he would have done the same thing outside, that he would have...
Well, if he would have went to a street corner and then started to chant and talk his whatever he was talking about in the middle of the street, well then yes, the Covington police officers would intervene and take appropriate action then. If he would just merely have gone to a outside the event arena and on a street corner on a sidewalk and talked about whatever he was talking about, then no, a Covington police officer would not have intervened.
How far would he have to walk?
A block.
So was he simply arrested because of location?
That he was asked to leave the festival area. He refused and began to yell and chant, causing a disturbance and annoyance and alarm to other patrons. That's why he was arrested.
Okay, with backup, was he chanting before you approached him or after?
Before, during, and after.
Had it increased, decreased? Had it intensified as you approached it?
It continued.
Did you notice what Mr. Burns was wearing on his way in?
No. I didn't see him enter the festival area.
Did any of the reports give a description of what the pamphlet said or the sign he was carrying or the clothes he was wearing?
Just that a male was carrying a sign and pamphlets. That's it. And Mr. Burns was the only person in the area that we came into contact with that had a sign and a pamphlet.
Thank you. Nothing further for this witness.
Any other?
No, Your Honor. The Commonwealth would rest.
Yes, sir. I would like to call Mr. Charles Burns.
Everyone raise your right hand. Somebody swear from to the truth, whole truth, and nothing but truth.
Yes, sir.
Please keep your voice up.
Mr. Burns, please say your full name for us.
Charles Henry Burns.
And what do you do for a living, Mr. Burns?
Member of Care Alliance, self-employed.
And on the date in question, tell me what your day was like. When did you go to a festival that day?
It actually looked like it was going to rain. I was driving by there, and a whole bunch of flyers from Gatewood Galbraith trying for governor of the state of Kentucky. It's a good place to go in here and pass them out.
Did you
I brought this sign, but
hang on just a second with the sign. Now, where exactly did you stand whenever you got to the festival?
I was walking off to the festival. I was actually just talking to Sherry She didn't really think there was a problem.
Did you ask her if there was a problem?
No, I ain't seen her since then, but I knew she did.
At the time.
Because she was friendly. Talking.
Did you see any other political booths?
Ron Paul had a booth there. He said, Mr. Shearer. Okay, well, we ain't got no money. We can't afford one.
No, I think that must be his attorney's, Aaron. Yeah.
Prior to this incident with the Covington Police Department, where did you enter the festival from?
At 7th and Bakewell, I believe, right there by Rose's Bar.
Was anything obstructing
Oh,
the
that's
street?
where you enter. There's a sheriff's car parked in the middle of the street.
Now,
Right on the corner.
would you recall exactly what type of sign? Were you carrying anything with you at the
Yeah,
time?
it's time.
Now, if I showed the suit, would you recall if that was the sign?
Yes.
Was this the sign you were carrying with you?
Mm-hmm.
And who are you campaigning for, sir?
Gatewood Galbraith.
Who is Gatewood Galbraith?
He's running for governor of the state of Kentucky. I'll be voting for him next week.
Now, one of his platforms. Are you familiar with this platform? What is what separates him from most of the other gubernatorial candidates?
Marijuana.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I don't see any relevance to any of this. It's just wasting
Just
time.
his Gatewood Galbraith view is there.
On your way in 7th and Bakewell, did any law enforcement approach you or say anything to you?
One officer seen my sign, and he's like, I like your sign. I knew he didn't like the sign. And those, him and the woman sheriff basically followed me around the rest of the time. They were always right around me.
Were you handing out pamphlets at the time?
Yes. And I was just holding up the sign so I wouldn't have to talk to people coming to me. And that's why I had the sign. People would come to me, I wouldn't have to go to them. And like what says back, people would run for governor.
So you had the sign, you had the pamphlet passing them out. Did you have anything else in your possession that may have cued off the police about why you were there?
T-shirt of it, whatever.
Do you have in your possession that T-shirt?
I'm wearing it under here.
Would you mind if I showed the court? With permission of the court, of course.
I suppose. I really don't like people investing.
It just,
They could have brought it off his body. He didn't have to wear it. Record reflects he wearing a shirt that says, "Weed my lips with the marijuana." You know it.
These people are idiots.
have you ever campaigned for Gatewood before?
Oh, yes.
In Maidstone?
Yeah, when he was running for attorney general.
Did you have any problems there? With law
Right.
enforcement?
Yeah, the tech risk and the weed. Actually, I just left them because I was pamphlets anyway.
Okay. Now, where did you, I
I didn't
suppose,
really know my rights.
you said that you walked through the crowd handing out pamphlets, correct? Okay. At what point, is there at some point that you stopped at a certain location in Maidstone?
I mean, I stopped quite a few of them. I stopped. I didn't want to stop. There's people wanted to have their picture taken with me with the sign. There was a couple people wanted to have their picture taken with me with the sign. And some other girl, she ran up. She was hugging me, thanking me for being out there.
When were you first approached by law enforcement?
I walked over there. It's hard for people to see, like in a quiet spot between them buildings. And this one officer Hoop Park Ranger. He was the first one, and he said, "Hey, come here, wait here for a minute." What, under arrest? Am I being detained? And he said, "No. Well, I got flyers to go pass out." I started to walk away, then more officers came.
Did he state a reason for keeping it?
No.
At that point, had you
I asked him if I was free to go.
Did he say yes?
Yeah, I wasn't being detained.
And who was that exactly?
They were, I called down and asked City Commander for all their names. I'd much rather had every one of them down there with tears. They wouldn't give me none of their names or nothing.
Okay. Where did you proceed after that? After the encounter with the group park?
Off to the squad car,
Well, let's back up a little bit. Were you in any way chanting before you were approached by police?
That wasn't chanting. Hey, you my character chant. That's the reason I got the sign. People come up to me, I ain't got to holler nothing now. They come up and they ask me, "Hey, what's that about?" We're trying for governor. There's a chance to change the law.
Were you in any way trying to annoy the public?
No, I don't think anyone was annoyed.
How was
Other
it?
than
How would you characterize your manner of speaking
polite.
to the public? Did you deliberately evade law enforcement?
No.
Now, are there homes around where you were standing at the time law enforcement approached?
Actually, right there, yeah, that's like a couple bars and side street with warehouse. Right down the street there. Most of the main trail area is residential.
Did they complain to you?
Don't blame me.
Were you,
Other than the police officers.
were you screaming?
No.
Were you acting boisterous or violent in any way?
No.
Were you trying to incite a fight with anybody?
No.
Were you trying to create alarm within the street?
No.
After the Hoop Park Ranger approached you, who approached you after that?
After that, it was like around 7 or 8 police officers there, and they're all firing questions, having me tell me I got to leave. I asked them why. They said it was a private event, and I could go out there, pointing towards Fifth Street.
Were any messages communicated about the content of what you were speaking about? Was anything said about this in the law?
I don't believe so. Then I'm passing out flyers through Gatewood Galbraith in front of the governor.
Now, you mentioned
Sign for
that officer on the way in did notice your son.
Yeah.
After that, did you happen to notice or observe any police officer paying particularly close attention to you?
Yeah, the same officer. Always pretty close by.
So, did you follow him?
Couldn't really say he did. He would always turn the shoulder and he's around.
How long did he follow you around before you were approached by other officers?
His total, I was there maybe 20 minutes, 30 tops.
And did he speak to you upon when you first entered?
Say he liked my son.
Okay, that's when you first entered?
Yeah.
And 20 minutes later was when the incident that led to this arrest.
20, 30 minutes later.
During that time, had you approached anybody that thwarted your advances, did not want to hear your message?
Then one here, I don't want to waste time, let's move on. Find someone who wants to talk about it. Yeah, but no one like it.
Did you intentionally harass any member of the public?
No.
Yeah. Did you ever approach anybody and they simply didn't want to hear your message?
I wasn't really trying, people, that's why I had a sign, so approach me.
You didn't approach me?
No, I wasn't trying to approach you.
They approached
I mean, other than they came to me, then we talked.
They approached you about your message.
You thumbs up for the sign or something.
How many officers would you say, again, gathered for you?
Somewhere around 6 to 8.
And at that time, what were you being advised to do?
You get out, you go on to Fifth Street, that's how long I was going back up there and talking to Sherry Ferran, the mayor. Going out right there.
Did you start chanting at that point?
I never started chanting.
Never
The
started?
only thing I did, I turned around and I walked away. I said I was going up there talking to Sherry Ferran. People by the beer booth, the only thing I said to them, or next one, because they were looking like what's going on. I just said, freedom of speech is being suppressed by the Covington police. I only said it once. And about that time, I was being put in handcuffs. One of them told me I was under arrest.
Were there any other comments made by you?
No, that's the only comment.
There was no chanting,
No, I don't chant.
no yelling on your part? How loud was the music coming from the chanting? Let me ask you differently. Could you have been heard over it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
You could have been heard?
by who? By the center media around me, sure, they could hear it. Kind of noisy there. People far off. Where it be, judges that, I think I had a hard time here.
So in all, how long were you down in Main Straws before you were approached by law enforcement and told to leave?
20 to 30 minutes.
And did you cause any disruption of any sort during this time?
No.
One moment, please, Jim. Now, you heard the detective's testimony earlier, correct? Earlier this morning? Do you agree or disagree that they advised you to move to another location?
They told me to go out there, go do it out on the streets.
Did they specify what?
Anywhere outside that event. No point told me to go out on the streets, find a corner.
How far was that in relation to Block 8?
Well, that would have been all the way across that parking lot where all the rides were set up. The Chinko's out to Fifth Street, a block.
Now, at the time of this, were you on a public sidewalk?
I believe it's like a street here and somewhere that blocked it off as being a street. Now it's just like a big flat sidewalk. Thanks to it. Looked like a street was through there before they put the parking lot.
From the comments by the police officer, were you led to believe that your actions would have been bona fide, legal, legitimate, if you had left?
Objection. Ignorance of the law is no defense, Your Honor.
Just his impression is said nothing to the case.
Now, were you told you could campaign by any law officer if it was outside that area?
Yeah, they told me I could go do that out there on the street. Told me that was the street.
Were any limitations made on the type of campaign?
No,
They tell you to keep your voice down.
no,
Did they tell you not to approach people?
no.
Had you approached people?
No, I was getting down to approach me with the sign.
No further questions at the moment, Your Honor.
Mr. Burns, isn't it true you did not have a permit to be there at Main Strasse?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. I mean, we're facing a disorderly conduct charge. If it's being within a private festival, criminal trespass, that's not the charge at issue here. We're dealing with disorderly conduct as opposed to that. We stipulate the fact that he did not have a permit.
No further questions.
Anything else?
The restaurant.
Any rebuttal?
No, sir.
Closing?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe in Mr. Burns' case, what we have here is a disregard for First Amendment rights. I believe that state and federal constitutional law would show that the association was engaged as a state actor performing a state function by running a festival on public streets. Mr. Burns could not afford, he was engaged in speech that did not, according to his testimony, raise any alarm or inconvenience with the public. It was only the nature of his speech that alarmed law enforcement. The evidence would show that he was wearing a shirt, obviously, that's outside mainstream culture. It's part of the counterculture. But it's a rising counterculture. It's happening in other states. And he was also wielding a sign and passing out pamphlets for a well-known candidate that supports medical marijuana.
Well, the record should reflect the shirt nor the sign that does not mention Gatewood Galbraith or any candidate. So it's misleading to say he was promoting a candidate. He may be promoting a cause, but nothing on the shirt nor the sign, at least that I saw, and anything about any specific candidate.
Yes, sir. He was promoting the cause of medical marijuana. Whether that be in his individual capacity, that's what Mr. Burns would be willing to admit that he does. He is a medical marijuana advocate. At this point, exactly as I said, state constitutional law, I believe, would be controlling in this case and saying that associations, whenever they take over a quasi-governmental role in running a festival on public streets, act in the place of state actors. Now, in this case, the police were also acting as state actors, even though they were off duty. The Main Strasse Association, whether you label it an association or a private festival, still cannot get around the First and 14th Amendments, Your Honor. He was simply there expressing a message. And from the get-go, the evidence would show from Mr. Burke's testimony that as soon as he walked in, he was singled out for the content of his message. This isn't disorderly conduct, Your Honor. There are, from what we see, we have no idea who called the complaint. We have no idea if any member of the public cared about his message. We have a dispatch. We don't know who it is. They're not here to confront him. We're not here to confront him. And in closing, Your Honor, I would ask that this be dismissed against Mr. Burns. Exactly. And that's it, Judge. I mean, he simply was communicating a message. Sure, certainly, we'll stipulate the fact that he did not have a permit for food. But, again, he was spreading a message. It may not be popular. It may not be something I agree with or the court agrees with. But that's his message, and he has a right to present it. Thank you.
Your Honor, the case is not about the political message. The case is simply it's a private festival. They do give permits for people, and he testified that other candidates were there and had properly set up booths in the area designated for that. The officer testified that he was dispatched to the location because there had been complaints about Mr. Burns. He simply asked him to move outside the private festival location, which by Mr. Burns' own account was about a block away on the outskirts there of 5th Street. He was asked repeatedly to go do that, and he could have gone out there and talked about marijuana all day long for anybody, as long as he wasn't putting himself or others in danger, so there wouldn't have been any problem. He refused. The officer testified that in that refusal he became loud, he drew a crowd to the location, and that's why he was arrested. And the Commonwealth believes that it has met the burden of disorderly conduct under those facts and would ask you to so find.
Even though it's a festival, it is a public area. But when a association or a festival or a group takes a permit for such a festival or other events, which down in the Main Strauss area in the past have included numerous festivals, political events. Ms. Clinton showed up down there when she was running for president. And the place is boarded up and stopped, and people were prevented from coming in. And whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it was a Democratic event, and Republicans weren't invited, so to speak. And they certainly would have a right to espouse their views in a different location. Likewise, if it's in Ohio, you have Paul Brown Stadium. It's owned by the Hamilton County, but it's leased to the Bengals, and even though it's a public place, they control the content in that place. When fans are unhappy with the Bengals, which are many at this time, or maybe not as many as last year, but many, they have a sign police that go around and take nothing down but signs that are anti-Mike Brown or the Bengals. So political speech is not unfettered. I mean, you don't have the absolute right. There is a reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on that. In this case, really isn't about the content. He says he was singled out. The officer said, "Like your sign." Well, maybe he truly liked the sign. I don't know. That officer isn't here to testify whether or not he truly liked it or not. As you indicated, that issue is one that's in the public. Some states have legalized medical marijuana. The federal government apparently now is going to crack down again. So it's in the public debate, and sooner or later that'll be resolved by somebody other than this court. What this really comes down to is when he was asked by the police to leave, go to an area outside of the festival area. What got him in trouble wasn't his message. It was his refusal to leave. And then upon his refusal, his reaction to that. And that's the disorderly conduct. It's not the whatever he was saying before that. They got some complaints. They approached him. They asked him to leave. He refused. And his testimony was, he said, "I'm going to go see Mayor Karen." So he's, one, indicating he is going to be leaving that area and not following the police orders. And two, he began yelling, violation of speech rights, and causing an alarm at that point, because he is engaged at that point in time with Officer Yule. That's the issue, not whether he has a sign that says, whatever it said, something about legalizing or medical marijuana or whatever it was, or the shirt that says, I'm going to mispronounce it, weed my lips, W-E-E-D, obviously a play on words. So it really isn't, Mr. Burns, about your message. Marijuana is not the divisive topic that it once was. Our legislature just recently reduced the punishment for it and pretty much almost decriminalized it. So that is an ongoing debate throughout the state and the country. So it's really not about that. It's really not that controversial anymore. But you're at a private festival that's been leased, and that area's been leased to that association, and they do have the right, because they are running that festival, to do some restrictions. It's not, you don't have a chance to talk, time, place, and manner. There are other political candidates that through your own testimony, have rented booths, pass out their pamphlets, etc. So it really isn't all about that. It isn't what you were saying before that. It's when they got a complaint, they came, and for the court, and the basis of my decision is what you did after the request. And that is, you didn't follow the order, you became tumultuous, you became yelling and screaming about the violation of rights, which causes crowds to gather around to see what's going on. That's the issue, and that's what I am basing my decision on. So, based upon that, make a finding of guilt to the charge of disorderly conduct. Anything as to sentencing?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth will just submit to the court.
Anything as to sentencing?
No, Your Honor, I would like to add, though, that we intend to appeal these proceedings, just to get that on the record.
You need to file your notice with the clerk, not the court.
I will, sir.
Make a finding of guilt. Anything else to sentencing?
No, sir.
$100 fine plus costs and fees. 10 days, conditional discharge, 2 years. No further offenses. Court costs and fees comes to $234. Give you a show cause date of February the 9th. It's not paid in full. Be back at 9:30, courtroom 1A. Sir, the attorney obviously indicates he intends to appeal the court's decision. That's your choice. But you do have that right to appeal, and you have 30 days to file that notice of appeal with the clerk on the clerk or by filing the notice with any and all appropriate fees. You do have the right to be represented by counsel. If not afford counsel, the court can consider the appointment of a public official in that appeal who would qualify financially. And there's a form that you would have to submit to that. All right? Or as far as the appointment of a public advocate. Your attorney is, again, as I indicated your intent to appeal, so I assume he will further advise you on all that and make sure that your rights are protected. Do you have any questions about that?
One question. Fine. I did that community service.
In the what?
Community service.
I could give you more community service, but I didn't. I probated the 10 days. I didn't.
No, I'm talking about the fine.
About the what?
The fine.
Oh. Well, are you employed?
They got enough money.
Your Honor, he indicated he was employed.
Yeah.
So,
It's 100 and costs. If you appeal it, it doesn't come final until the appellate process is completed. So you have until February 9th to pay that, assuming that you decide to appeal and want to fund that or whatever you choose to do is your decision. But if that appellate process is not completed by February 9th, then that would be stayed until the circuit judge issues an opinion. So if it is appealed and we do not have a decision back prior to February the 9th, then we would show up on that date and I'll give you additional time to pay, depending on where the status of the appeal is. You Any other further questions?
No, Your Honor.